Welcome to the Why Not Real Estate Podcast, where you will learn top strategies from world-class real estate investors, both large and small. Why not? Tune in and get started today.
I hit a bit of a rough patch right after this. Like, okay, cool. This is a 3-year goal. Now what? I didn't have the next thing lined up. And I reached out to a gentleman out of Canada that specializes in NLP, neuro linguistic programming. We did pretty intensive coaching for a little bit, and the best money that I've spent. In conjunction with the Tony Robbins event I attended that same December 2024, like I took off like a rocket. And investing in tools like that, really focusing on the psychology and mindset and removing some of the limiting beliefs that I imagine many of us carry, but being consciously aware of them and chipping away at them one by one.
Hey, what's up, all of my real estate peeps? This is Brian Lucier with another episode of the Why Not Real Estate Podcast, where we interview all from beginners to billionaires, where I believe investing in multifamily is one of the best real estate classes in real estate. Although on several shows, I've learned a new tip, tactic, or technique that has shown me the light that real estate really is a broad way to approach a platform to building wealth. My bread and butter is real estate. My bread and butter is multifamily. And today, on today's show, we have a multifamily guest as well. So let's get rolling and I'll introduce him. Today's guest is a true trailblazer, a deal maker, an action taker whose career reads like a blueprint for entrepreneurial success. Our guest today, a commercial real estate agent and inspiring multi-unit franchise owner whose journey from restaurant operations to real estate strategy is nothing short of spectacular. He also brings more than a decade of hands-on business growth experience, from transforming underperforming restaurant locations into thriving success stories, to mastering the art and science of real estate deals. At just 20 years old, he became the youngest multi-unit Subway franchise owner in his region, turning around two struggling stores through visionary leadership, full renovations, savvy valuation negotiations, and complete team rebuilds, all while delivering double-digit sales increases in the face of some of the toughest economic pressures in the brand's history. Before breaking ground in real estate, our guest figured out what so many seasoned pros still struggle with: how to grow people and profits at the same time. From sales promotion and public speaking to business growth strategies and customer experience excellence, his skill set and his mindset has empowered every step of his entrepreneurial rise. And the industry is taking notice. He was selected for the National Association of Realtors 30 Under 30, spotlighting his exceptional drive, professionalism, and impact in a real estate at a remarkably young age. Today, whether he's matching commercial opportunities with visionary investors, mentoring emerging business owners, or building value across communities, our guest radiates the why not mindset, the belief that high performance isn't just a goal, it's a lifestyle. So, ladies and gentlemen, all of my real estate peeps and rock stars, investors and entrepreneurs around the world, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome to the mic today commercial real estate entrepreneur and multi-unit franchise master, Mr. Dhaval Patel. Dhaval, welcome to the show.
That is quite the intro. Thank you so much, Brian.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And, that's usually the first thing somebody says, that it was quite the intro. And I just have to reflect back that it's your story. So if it sounds remarkable to you, it's your remarkable story. So that's
Thank
really
you.
kind of cool. I just want to give our audience a little bit of background on how we hooked up. I was at Andrew Freed's meetup in Worcester, Massachusetts. Currently, I'm down here on the island. Actually, a little sidebar. This is the last episode I'm shooting from this location, this condo. We're moving out of this condo back over to the other building at Azuri. So this is a swan song episode coming from here. Back to Andrew Freed. I was asked to be on a panel of experts as a property manager. I think he had an attorney, a lender, and a property manager. So I was delivering all the bad news. That was my job. And Dhaval at the end of the show stepped up to me, says, "Dude, we got to do this. I want to be on your show. You told me a little bit about what you were doing." And I said, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's hook it up." And here we are. So Dhaval, if it's okay with you, let's rock and roll and get started.
Let's do it.
All right. So we got a little bit of your story in your bio, and thank you for giving me that. But what did you used to do before becoming a real estate entrepreneur?
Um, I've always been fascinated with business. I mean, I was probably starting around 5 years old. My dad managed a couple of Dunkin' Donut franchises for a gentleman who had 5 locations. I just thought it was the coolest thing in the world to own a business, to have employees to go through this process and add value. So at 18 years old, or I guess backtracking, 14, Subway was my first job. At 18, I became a franchisee. 6 months later, bought a second location out of bankruptcy. We turned that around for a bit and then went to college. I thought that was going to unlock all these answers, help me get some direction. I think I was more lost at the end of it. Went back to the Subway business. So dropped out as a senior. Whatever tuition fees would have been for that last year, bought 2 additional Subway locations with an SBA 7A loan.
Deval, what you just said is really interesting. And you're not the first entrepreneur I've run into who was in college. And in your case, you took the tuition from your senior year and invested it in yourself to do 2 more franchises. So Scott McGillivray, he's one that's done that. You know, he's all over MTV right now and HGTV, all that. But it's interesting that you saw the writing on the wall. You saw that this was a business opportunity, and you made the decision. You pulled the trigger. You flipped the switch, and that's one of the hardest things for an entrepreneur to do, or a regular person to do. To see the opportunity, get off the fence, and take that. So here you are, you're in college, senior year, and you flip the switch and you buy 2 underperforming subways.
Right. Yeah, so 2 locations, and I think one thing, I mean, SBA is pretty fantastic. We're only having to put down 15%. As far as the documentation, that's a whole other story. Quite a few gray hairs from that whole process, but beautiful learning, right? And they also provided working capital. The interest rates were really reasonable. This is back in 2016, and they're about 5%.
Oh, wow. Nice, nice. So you mentioned some really interesting things at the beginning there. Your dad was a franchisee, Dunkin' Donuts, and I think you had mentioned he also did some Subway. But you, at 5 years old, were exposed to, how do I say this? What was commonplace for you was like a master's class for someone at a college level. So here you are in between Tinker Toys and Legos learning about entrepreneurship, and your dad's got these businesses. And I say this so many times, your dinner conversations were way different than most families' dinner conversations.
That's fair. That's fair. So those specific locations, my dad was managing and overseeing. But to your point, Brian, a lot of my extended family are entrepreneurs, whether it's the hospitality industry, whether it's real estate, or various different franchise businesses. And I think having that community and where it's the norm, and at various family gatherings, you're talking about, hey, how's business? And you're just diving into it. This new program, this thing's working, the return on this is spectacular. Don't do this. And it's invaluable to have that sort of community connection and support. I think I'm very lucky in that. If we're looking to, let's say, start a business, very common, we're able to raise capital from extended friends and family. Granted, you've got a good reputation in the community, and it's a solid business venture.
Well, it's not just community, being that it's family. I mean, it's one thing to build a network of investors, right? You got to kind of vet people and know what's going on. But if your uncle and your cousin and your brother and your dad, you already have, a bond way beyond any network. And then when you add, like you said, you've got all these entrepreneurial minds coming together. I can't think of a stronger network situation where that network has your back to want you to succeed.
For sure.
Right. They're your blood. They're your family. They're not going to let you fail. They're not going to let you fail.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes in a network situation, people might sit back and say, well, we'll dip our toe in your water and see how it goes. Like you just said, if you've got a solid idea, I mean, your pedigree from 5 years old, this is what you grew up doing, right? That's
Right.
rare.
Yeah.
That's rare. So it's exciting. And, reading your bio and everything, it's like, wow, this guy sounds like juiced up at really young age, but this was your environment. This is where you grew up. And I'm putting a spotlight on this, and I don't want to turn off anybody who's watching this show and saying, well, this guy at 5 years old, he was exposed to things. I'm like in my 20s, my 30s, my 40s. I'm not going to have his opportunities. That's a bunch of bunk, because at any point in time, you can flip the switch and want to do better for yourself. Senior year, you made a conscious decision to take that student loan and invest in yourself. That's the mindset. So anybody who's watching this who's thinking, well, I didn't have the 5-year-old opportunity. No, it's when are you going to decide to invest in yourself? That's the starting point, right?
Mm.
So I have a question here on the board. What other influences did you have growing up that affected you to be entrepreneurial? And is that like everywhere from the cradle to the car keys was your influence? You just had that mindset and environment. Like, were you ever able to get away from that mindset, or was it
Mm.
always there?
It's a good question. For the most part, it was always there. I mean, at college, I think it was a time to experiment, see. I was part of, I think, almost every single club at the business school, whether it was marketing or sales or real estate, to see, what avenue is going to be the best fit. And I think that really helped to determine, startups, really cool. You can do very well, but it's not for me. Stock market, I enjoy investing in it. I don't want to be spending 60 out or 80 hours a week learning that art. Real estate, and I'm sure we'll dive into this in a little bit. In my opinion, it's the best asset class out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Hands down.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't get here designing websites. That was along the way, but when I started to invest into myself and invest into real estate, that's when the wealth cycle started to grow, and that whole spin wheel concept, right? Um, let's see. So always been entrepreneurial, always been since you're 20 years old, 18 years old, you're buying franchises. This is going to be a tough question here. Um, how how long have you been an entrepreneur?
Hmm.
How old are you now?
I'm 30 now.
30.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it actually made me think of something, Brian. I think the turning switch for me, because I wasn't a great student. Like I did all right, but I was never phenomenal. And there's a book I read, and I imagine many of your listeners have an idea of which book I'm going to share.
Is it purple?
It is purple. And of
Okay.
course, I'm referring to Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
I read that at 16 years old. And for me, it gave me permission to be me.
Ah,
I didn't love learning in a classroom setting. I have ADHD. I love going out and experimenting, seeing what works, what doesn't, and getting out there and doing it rather than just reading it and in a textbook and regurgitating it. And that's really what evoked my passion for business. And that's when I really stepped up. I was working close to 40 hours a week while in high school and taking the AP course. I wouldn't recommend that, by the way. I wasn't getting very much sleep. But it was what was required at that point.
so 16 is like that conscious moment where you said, okay, this is my trajectory. I've got a path.
Yeah.
You're 30 now. So if you could go back in time 14 years ago, knowing what you know now, and tap yourself on the shoulder, what advice would you give to yourself starting over?
Hmm. Invest in yourself with mentors, right? So 24, 25, that's when things really took off for me in real estate and when I actively became an agent. And the brokerage that I joined, I didn't even ask what the commission split was. I joined because of the broker, the mindset that he had, the approach to business, his work ethic, his integrity. And I think investing in myself, whatever the mastermind is, whether it's EO Entrepreneurs Organization or GoBundance or through Tony Robbins, there's tons of masterminds out there. And I think making that investment, even if it's minimal, even if it's 100, $200 a month, but to surround myself with successful entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
And perhaps it's even something that's free, of attending the meetup. There's free food. I didn't pay for it. I mean, so stuff like that is invaluable. And we have so many resources these days. And in addition to podcasts like this, this wasn't really a thing, 15 years ago.
Yeah, right. I think this, well, I woke up around COVID thinking, all this Zoom stuff is going on. I never heard of Zoom or, I knew that there were online meetings, but, those were meetings. It wasn't sharing knowledge like this that, the meetings were closed, right? That was
Mm-hmm.
business.
Mm-hmm.
This exploded out to be public. Like we're going to share our ideas
Yeah,
and let other people, if you want what we have, do what we did, right?
sure.
So mentors, absolutely, because they help develop the mindset, and a good Sherpa will walk you through that mountain trail, tell you step here, don't step there. If you step there, you're going to fall down the mountain. If you step here, we're going to be able to take you up to the next level. Finding those kind of people in your life, and it's it's not just mentors, it's finding the right mentors, right? Like I could find a mentor, but if my mentor is going to teach me all about ice cream trucks, well, that's not a good fit for me,
Sure.
right? I need to have some vision to know you don't know what you don't know. But if I know I want to know about real estate, then I got
Hmm.
to look for mentors within that box of chocolates.
Yeah,
What
absolutely.
other advice would you have given to yourself starting over?
Mm. Take uncomfortable action and do it with a sense of urgency. So, in other words, I was approved to purchase a property back in 2017. I didn't buy my first property until 2024. And the reason for that, so financially, I was approved. We're good to go. It was an emotional block that I didn't know I had. So I'm 30 and I've moved 35 plus times. And I reached out this is right after, winning the 30 under 30 thing. And I hit a bit of a rough patch right after that. It's like, okay, cool. This is a 3 year goal. Now what? I didn't have the next thing lined up. And I reached out to a gentleman out of Canada that specializes in NLP, neuro linguistic programming. We did pretty intensive coaching for a little bit, and the best money that I've spent. In conjunction with the Tony Robbins event I attended that same December 2024, like I took off like a rocket. And investing in tools like that, really focusing on the psychology and mindset and removing some of the limiting beliefs that I imagine many of us carry, but being consciously aware of them and chipping away at them one by one.
That's gold. That's gold. If anybody listening to this, rewind the last 30 seconds and listen to what Dhaval just said. I mean, even myself, even now today, I am my biggest roadblock of what I think I can and can't do. I work out with a buddy of mine, Rick. He's from the Netherlands. He's Dutch and, really nice guy. He's jacked, super kind, gentle soul. But anyways, Wednesday is leg day. And 2 Wednesdays ago, he's doing 820 pounds legs. And I'm like, okay, I know I can do 720. So it's like, well, what's it take? And he says, this. So this past Wednesday, what's today? Thursday? I don't know what day it is. Anyways, this week I hit 820
Let's go.
because I got out of my own way thinking I couldn't do it. Yeah.
Mm,
Let that sink
yeah.
in, right? So people on this show might be listening and say, wow, Dhaval figured out all that stuff. Tony Robbins, he did this. Neuro-linguistic programming. I want to go back to that in just a second because that's
hmm
important.
hmm
And then, Brian, because of the suggestion that his buddy, it's what does it take to make you believe in yourself? Is it a guy at the gym? Is it a book? Is it, a flash of lightning, that spark? Who knows? Everybody gets their own inspiration.
hmm
So I'm finishing up a book by Joe Dispenza right now, Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Yeah,
Neuro-linguistic programming. I think you said the guy was out of Canada.
correct.
So at 30,000 feet, someone who's never heard of that,
hmm
how would you explain to them what neuro-linguistic programming is and how does it affect you to get out of your own
Good
way?
question. Yeah, so it's very, and Tony Robbins also utilizes it at a pretty high level. It's focusing on the subconscious and negative patterns there that one may not be aware of. And it's a certain process. So with this individual in Canada, it was 2 hour sessions 3 times a week for a couple of weeks, and then, sporadic. But we'd have check-ins as well. He gave me a one sheet where I'd fill out essentially areas of, like, let's say it's fitness, how many days am I going to the gym, and ranking it on a scale of 1 to 10. 10, the max level. And it's not the outward goal, it's the inward. If I said, if I was going to go, how much, to what level and degree did I achieve it? In other words, there's leading and lagging indicators. So let's say we're looking to buy a property. It's things that I can control. I can't control whether the seller is going to accept it or not. So that same analogy, 1 to 10. And a lot of it is subconscious again. So you may not be aware of it, but you'll see the results in your life.
Hmm.
So in combination with NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, EMDR, it's another form of therapy, which has been incredibly powerful. And I've noticed that I'm at a much calmer state compared to prior to doing these specific modalities.
So to try to relate to what I've been learning, right?
hmm
It's slowing down your brain enough to observe yourself.
Mm,
And then once you can slow it down and see it as a landscape, you can say, okay, this is working for me. We're going to keep that. This is not working. We're going to take that out. And now that that's out of the picture, it actually frees up more energy to replace it with something positive.
mm.
So the more garbage out, all that energy, and it takes a lot of energy to maintain negative thoughts.
Hmm.
Once you can ditch those, you've got all this other energy. And if you're left over with mostly positive thoughts, because,
Hmm.
it's not a light switch, it's a
Sure.
process.
Sure.
It allows you, if you can slow down, whether it's meditating or some programming or some type of series of questions, whatever it is, whatever can slow down the noise to allow you to look at it and say, okay, what should I do? What do I want my life to be?
Mm-hmm.
How do I want to feel about
Hmm.
this? And
Yeah.
then once you start to, the feeling part of it, everybody thinks, well, I'm going to make all these changes in my life and then I'm going to feel better. Please correct me. That's not how it works. You have to feel better and then all these things in your life change.
Yeah.
Wow. You're the second guest in a row who's tapped on this.
Mm.
So this is, for me, it's been something off to the side that I've been investigating, figuring
Hmm.
out, trying to slow
Hmm.
down the noise in my head. And
Sure.
now here it is coming back on the other side of the show. It's like, yeah, no, this has to happen. You got to do this. So you've given me some information. This old dog is still learning new tricks. Um, so old dog's learning new tricks. I'm going to beat this one more time. You've given us a lot of juice. Is there anything else you would have told yourself about to do this as you were
Yes.
starting over? What else would
Yeah.
you have done?
And I'm sure many of us have heard this, but ensuring that, and I'm going through this right now, the core group that you hang out with, the 5 people that you associate and spend the most time with, you're eventually going to become like those individuals. And I think initially when I got involved in the Subway business, I had pretty decent group of core folks, and they're invested in other businesses, and it really helped to elevate and continue to want to grow. And I think it's important, whatever context that you're in, whether it's real estate or stocks, but having that mastermind or community that you're able to continue to elevate and support one another. And I'm very lucky to be part of a few different communities, and I'm going through the process right now of selectively being more conscious of who I'm spending time with.
Yeah.
And this year in particular, I'm really focusing on the financial component. Um, and we actually just closed on a 6 family property earlier this morning. So we'll dive a little bit deeper into that. But this is a gentleman I met last year at an event, and we looked at a property, didn't work out, we got outbid, and this was we heard about it through a listing agent before it was even listed. We had
Yeah.
essentially negotiated it. We'll dive in a little bit deeper on that, but to the original point, you've got to be very conscious of who you spend your time with. And I think whenever I've done that in the past, I've elevated, and I think continuing to nurture those relationships, especially as a guy, it's something that I've noticed, and I've had this conversation with other guy friends, like really being conscious. Like, why let a year or 2 years pass? I reached out to a friend recently. I met him at a conference, great guy. And I'm like, hey, it's been several years. He's like, yeah, I got married and I've got a kid.
It's this gets complicated, and I want to check myself as I'm saying it here. And I'm older and I've seen this happen in my own life, right? As you grow and nurture and your mindset changes and your values change and your priorities change and you get deliberate and intentional, right? You look at all the things you used to do in your life. Well, it was really nice to do pizza and beer and watch Netflix for a couple of days, but that doesn't fit anymore. And you hit on mentors. That's super important. That's deliberate and intentional. Your networks, that your communities, you're involved with, deliberate and intentional. Your friends, that's the hard part, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're growing and they're not, your friends love you. But as that space and gap widens, they don't have bad intentions for you, but they don't want you to grow so far away from you that you almost feel being pulled back.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know who said it, but if you hang around with five broke friends, you'll be the sixth.
Yeah.
And if you hang around with five entrepreneurs, you'll be the sixth.
Mhm.
And it's painful to let go. And it's painful on their part to see you go. But once your eyes are open, you can't stay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Have you experienced that at a young, tender 30 years old already?
I have. And on the positive side, I'm noticing with a few friends. So this is 2021, Tony Robbins conference. One of the key ones that I recommend for your audience to check out is called the Unleash the Power Within. It's 3.5 days. It can be done virtual. And we held it at the office. We had 7 people attend.
Wow.
3 of those people, and in my opinion, the folks that took it most seriously were the highest performing sales agents in their respective areas. And 2 of them, my friends, we had this mini competition. A friend bought a duplex, another friend bought a triplex. I bought a fourplex. Now we've got this little healthy competition. A friend bought a 9 unit, earlier this year. We just closed on the 6 unit today, so we're up to 12 units, and I just checked out another 6 unit, which was a referral by someone that I know. So I think that sort of positive encouragement, and it's healthy competition. We're friends. We love and respect each other. We hang out, but there is that friendly camaraderie, and we won't outdo each other. And I think that's healthy.
Yeah. Like hitting 820 when I could only, 820 when I could,
Yeah.
whatever it was, 810 or
You're
whatever it was.
super impressive, by the way, Brian.
I, it's your show, not my show. You said positive competition. It'll be on there. But anyways, you said it and it was like magic words. Positive camaraderie, right? It's like, yeah, I want to buy a 6, I want to buy a 9. And you got these other buddies who are like doing the same thing. It's not really a competition. Oh, I wanted that deal or I wanted that deal. But encourage, like, iron sharpens iron, right?
For sure.
You're lifting each other up at the same time. And together you're amassing this portfolio of wealth that, at 30 years old, you're going to look back when you're 40 saying, oh my goodness, what we were doing back then, we were on rocket fuel getting all this stuff done. And yeah, stay in that group. And anybody who's hearing this, find a network, find a meetup, find other people who are doing what you want to do, who already have done what you want to do, and learn from them.
I just want to emphasize that point, Brian. Getting advice from people who have done and have achieved the results that you want to achieve. And I'll share something very briefly. COVID times, there's different loans, ERC, PPP. We had the opportunity to get between 600,000 and $1 million loan at 3.75%. No payments, or I believe it was like 2 years. I asked someone for advice. Should we get this? I said, no, we don't need it. Why pay interest on that debt? I'm kicking myself. There's just $1 million. That would be incredibly valuable right about now.
I have a different perspective on that because I did take the PPP money, and
Okay.
when we paid it off earlier, there was a stipulation in the back of the contract that you still owe all the interest.
Hmm.
So that was
Interesting.
kind of a surprise. We went through this company to pay off everything, and we had to negotiate, and there were lawyers involved, and it was
Oh,
ugly for a while, but we got through it, right?
okay.
That's history now. The money's came, the money went, we paid it off, and now it's a lovely story. Um, so that would have been, if you could go back in the time machine to help you with your trajectory. But now here we are, it's 2026, January.
Mm, yeah.
What advice would you give to that newbie who's on the shelf today, hearing all this, thinking, should I? How could I? How would I? What advice would you give to that newbie who's starting out today?
Mm. Couple of things. First of all, in the States as a first time buyer, and this is where many investors get started. I think you know where I'm going with this, Brian. Something called a house hack, where you can live in one of the units and you can rent out the others. So let's say it's a four family, which is my first property. I lived in one, rented out the other three after some light rehab. And not only did I get to live there for free, I was cash flowing even while I was living in the property. And then being able to, whether you do a cash out refi, use those monies to help you buy the next property. Doing the first deal is the most critical because then you get over the nerves and then it's not as scary, right? It's like the first time you're doing a speech. That first time, maybe you're a little nervous, the butterflies. By your 100th, you're rocking and rolling. And that'd be my advice. And surround yourself, whether it's through the mentors or meeting folks at meetups who have bought and invested in properties, because we've all been there. We've all bought that first property. We know what it's like. And for the most part, most folks want to help one another. And as long as you're going in it with, doing your basic due diligence and homework, doing some research online, reading the books, spending time, whether it's on Bigger Pockets or listening to podcasts like this one, educating yourself, most folks would be more than willing to help if you have any specific questions. And then it's building a solid team. It's having a spectacular lender, loan officer. It's having a real estate agent that's really got your best interest in mind and that is experience in buying investment properties or multifamily properties. And then, of course, a solid attorney that's going to make sure everything goes as smooth as possible and is really protecting you. And we can dive in deeper into those points when we talk about my first purchase, Brian.
We're going to get there. You hit so many golden nuggets. I'm going to go backwards here. Building your team. You don't know who you need until you need them.
Mm,
And you just gave off a list of people that, that first time investors not even thinking, well, I need an attorney, I need this, I need that. So anybody listening to this, hit rewind and write down all the people that he said that should be on your team. And here's a little rabbit hole sidetrack. And then I want to go back to the secret sauce that you said. The little rabbit hole sidetrack, when you do build your team, you find the butcher, right? You say, Mr. Butcher, you're great. Who's the baker and the candlestick maker that you love working with, right? And then they'll refer the best people from their network that now become your network. And every time you find a butcher or a baker or a candlestick maker, ask them to fill in the blanks on the rest of your team. If you needed this type of person on the team, who have you seen who's doing a great job to recommend to be part of our team? Because they're not going to recommend some a-hole that they don't want to work with. They're going to recommend the rock star who they love working with, who's going to make your life easier. So as you're building your network, let that be your question that you ask all your rock stars, because rock
mm,
stars love to work with other rock stars, and they'll
for
bring
sure.
them into the band, and that'll be your band. And
Mm,
then you mentioned the house hack with the four family. Oh, secret sauce, secret sauce, secret sauce. That is what I've told each of my sons. This is how
mm,
you're going to build wealth. They haven't done it yet, but they've seen me do it, right?
mm,
And how does it work? You house hacked with a 4 unit. So you were living in one of the units,
mhm,
right? If you went extreme house hacking, you're living in that unit with two other roommates
Sure.
who, like, now you're making coin off the entire building. And you did mention the rinse and repeat aspect of it. And that's my story. I mean, I did my first multi, refied it out in a couple of years, bought two more, refied those out in 2 more years. So within 4 to 5 years, I leveraged my $40,000 down payment into over 1.2, $1.3 million, all off of that initial thing. And
Yeah.
back then, I didn't have mentors. I didn't know I needed a team. I was a lone ranger trying to figure it out all by myself. There were no podcasts. You couldn't go online and see all the stuff. You needed to have a realtor or a broker sending you leads, right?
Mhm.
You didn't have access the way you have access now. And that was it. I mean, so
Mm.
anybody who's listening to this today, rewind 25 years, that's how I did it. My God, you were 5 years old just learning about entrepreneurs. And I was buying my properties and I was
Mm.
house hacking, and I didn't know that's what they called it, right? I would buy, refi, rinse and repeat, refi, rinse and repeat. And I
Mhm.
amassed that portfolio. And so you gave them the secret sauce. Today we call it house hacking, bigger pockets. You can find out all about that for free. Building your team, that was really great stuff. For that newbie who's starting out today, what other advice would you give that guy sitting on the fence or gal
Mm.
sitting on the fence?
Get out there, and the first step is getting approved, right? So, to my knowledge, the U.S. is the only country where you're only putting down 3.5%. And there's other products out there, conventional, where you're putting down 5%. For veterans, you can finance 100%. And with that, you'll be able to go check out properties, and you'll have a better understanding as far as what you like when it comes to location. So some of my mentors recommended personal preference, but being within 30 to 45 minutes of said property, especially when you're starting out. And from there, being able to, work with a quality realtor who's doing it full time, and you'll be able to pick out what are the key things to look out for in a property when it comes to uh, rehab, when it comes to age of mechanicals, roof, miscellaneous things, and they'll give you advice. And most markets, you're not having to pay your realtor. The seller is covering the commission for your buyer's agent. And again, every state is slightly different, so double check your local jurisdiction and rules. But they're representing your best interests, evaluating, and then start putting offers. And then you'll go through the process, you'll get more comfortable. Once you get that first deal, then you're off to the races.
The first one's the hardest. And then after that, it's like, okay, I've been around the block once. And then when you've been around the block 10, 15 times, it's like, oh, yeah, I remember that. Oh, yeah, I remember that. And these are just like riding a bike, right? You don't
Yeah,
have to think about pedaling and steering
yeah,
and hitting the
yeah.
brakes.
And
That
then one
first,
other thing yeah, pardon me, go ahead, Brian.
no, no, go ahead.
There's also, especially here locally in Massachusetts and Connecticut, there's tons of different programs for down payment assistance where you can qualify up to $50,000 in either state to help towards your primary purchase. In certain cities and municipalities have different grants. For example, Chicopee in Western Mass, they offer a $16,000 grant for first-time buyers. So there's tons of different programs out there. Different lenders have programs where they'll offer 5,000 or send monies to help towards that down payment. Another key one, you can get something called a seller's credit. Depending on the loan type, that could be anywhere from 2 to 6%. So the seller is helping you pay for your closing costs, your down payment, et cetera. And that's another way to reduce your costs. You can also, especially if the property's been sitting on the market, you can negotiate repair requests where you can further reduce the purchase price of the property. Or if there's a major issue, let's say a roof needs to get replaced, it's 15 grand, you can negotiate that in where the contractor gets paid at closing, they reduce the price. So there's a few different creative ways to go about it, but the best way to learn, in my experience, excuse me, in my opinion, is to go do it, is through experience, because that's where you're going to make the smaller mistakes, and those are totally fine. It's the big key ones, and that's where the mentors and the realtors help. If there's an underground oil tank, that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
That's not a mistake you want to make.
Right. Right.
If it's some sink that's leaking, who cares? It's a couple $100, right?
Yeah. Um, you're just hitting all the really, really good and right stuff that people should know. I'm going to add to one thing here. When you buy that property and there is a repair or something, you can negotiate it on the seller side. You can also negotiate it on the lender side, right? Just round numbers here. You're going to buy
Mhm.
something for 200,000. Not going to happen in today's market, right? But
Yeah.
just say it's 200,000 and your repair costs are going to be 20 grand. Wrap that into the mortgage. So after you buy the property, you're not having to come out of your pocket to 20 grand to make the repairs.
Hmm.
If the lender or the seller meets you 10 grand, okay, now I still got to come up with 10 grand. It doesn't have to be your money. And putting it into the mortgage, it's only going to cost you a couple $100 a month. You can get the property stabilized, refinance it, get the cash back.
That's a really good point, Brian. I actually have not done that yet.
Oh yeah, we
Yeah.
what was it? It's coming up on a year now. Last February, we started negotiating a deal. And after I got everything all set, I talked with the lender because I've got my CSL. So I wrote up my own
Yeah.
estimates, my own
Yeah.
quotes. And
Sure.
literally, I'm getting paid to work on my own property. And it's all wrapped into the mortgage.
Mm.
So I've covered I, but I'm not doing anything shady, right? I do have my
Oh,
license. I have the
absolutely.
bids. I did it. I did all the work. We're doing all the work. We're doing it right. It's not like I just
Sure.
threw out some magic number and got that off the bank. We're putting it into the property where it's supposed to
Absolutely.
go,
Yeah.
adding the value to the property. Yeah, and the lender was fine doing that because we bought it under market value add. Even with the money that we added in for repair costs, we were still at debt service ratio 1.25. So the deal
Mm.
worked by
Yeah.
adding the extra money that I didn't have to come out 50, 60 grand to do 3 units over, right?
Mm.
Fine. That's
Yeah.
just another tool that you can put in there. Everything that
Yeah.
Dhaval has said, definitely. And then I'm just adding a little bit of like cinnamon on top. All right, really good stuff. And we've been alluding to this. So let's roll it back and do a bit of a deep dive here. So, Dhaval, what's the best deal you ever did? What type of property was it? How did you find it? And how did you finance it?
Let's dive in. First property was a four-family in Chicopee, Massachusetts. I found it through, it was an expired listing. It was listed back in Jan of 2022. The deal fell apart, and what looked like the seller just got frustrated. Called them, and there's a lot of free tools and resources where you can find sellers' contact info. And we met, agreed on a price, which was actually lower than what they had it listed. And of course, I'm a licensed agent, so there's no commission involved. And we're able to get the property for roughly $370,000,
For a four
and
family.
for a four family in Chicopee.
Nice.
And we were able to do some light rehab. The state came out with a program right around that time. They're offering a $3,000 credit for each one of the units to get them de-leaded, which we did. We want to do everything by the book, be extra safe on that front. One of the tenants had was planned on moving out, right after we purchased the property. I was in one of the units. One of the tenants, relocated due to family. Another one bought a home. So we had fairly quick turnover that was just natural. We did some, again, very light rehab to the property. And what's interesting about this one, Brian, it was set up as a five family, legally zoned as a four. There's a piece of plywood that was separating two of the units. We just combined it. The rent went from 1,000 to 2,000 for the said unit. We just had to sand the floors, clean up the bathroom a little bit. Everything was, fully legal. Remove the extra kitchen on that side, and a beautiful family that's living there now. Rent roll went from 4,000 to now we're about 6,600, but 2 years out, and we've minimized the expenses as much as possible. There's a coin op at the property, and the original financing was going to be something called an FHA 203K loan. We anticipated the repairs are going to cost more, and you can actually incorporate those into the loan. So let's just say, create an example, $100,000 of repairs, you're only putting down an extra 3,500 bucks. Yes, more paperwork, more documentation, but you're getting some instant equity. In this case, and to my earlier point about having a lender who knows what they're doing and has worked with folks, I kid you not, Brian, this was the last business day of the year. At 4:58 p.m., I get a call. We're closing in 4 days. I'm so sorry. We can't approve your loan. I'm like, what? So we had to switch from FHA to conventional. I had to put down 20%. Luckily, I had it saved. We're able to get it done. Another key point about the attorney, she had a specific document in there that gave us an extra 2 weeks. If we didn't have that because of the time frame to get everything swapped out with the loan, I would have missed out on the property. The seller wanted to change his mind.
Oh, God.
So everything came together, and we literally closed on that final day where the cutoff for the 2 weeks. And when it's all said and done, the seller is happy. He made 140,000. He's chilling. I made a pretty penny on it. The property is probably worth about 460 right now. So everyone won in that scenario.
At 6,600 a month, what's the cap rate out there in Chicopee?
The market about 6.5, 7.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, cap rates are an exit strategy, not a buying strategy. I was just trying to wrap my head around, because it sounds like with that rent coming in, it'd probably be worth more than that.
Again, I'm very conservative. That's the worst case
Okay,
number for me.
I'll give you that. Conservative works. Very interesting. So it was a 4-family. Your financing was a bit of a circus. You mentioned having rock stars, an attorney that had that 2-week clause in there, getting a new. Did you end up with the same lender, just having to do a different type of?
For that case, due to the time frame, we needed to stick with the original lender
You just had to put
with
in
appraisal.
Yeah.
Correct.
Oh, gee, that never happens. You mean a lender would tell me it would be one cost, and then when you close, it's a different cost? Unheard of. Yeah, the deal we did, I had to put an extra 30K in escrow just because. So,
Yeah.
all right. So it's still sitting there, but in my world, that's a bank account that's sitting there with the money safe, collecting interest. It'll be ready, when I get the leases for the 3 properties that we're rehabbing, when the whole thing's stabilized. When I show them the leases, they'll say, okay, now you're at the real 1.25. Here's that.
Mhm.
And I may just keep it there because now it's
Yeah.
set aside waiting for the next deal. Okay.
For sure.
So we know what type of property was. We know how you financed it. How did you find this?
It was an expired listing. So
Expired.
meaning that it was on the market, the seller didn't find a buyer. And then, it's a couple of years past the fact, and I've had very good luck reaching out to folks past that initial, let's say, 3 to 6 months. That's when they're getting hammered with phone calls from different agents to list their property. And I've also found just having a casual conversation. Hey, I saw 123 Main didn't sell. Well, what happened? And just letting them talk and hearing their story. And if you're able to help them and add value, fantastic. If they don't want to sell, I totally get it. Wishing you all the best. And you'd be surprised. I've had a couple of folks reach back out, or they shared, they get tons of different calls. but they want to meet or they want to have a conversation.
Expired listings, that's, another tool that not a lot of people think about and know about. You have an advantage being a realtor, being a broker, where you can kind of get in the back door, do a search for expired listings. But that doesn't stop the normal person, even someone seeing this for the first time, say, what's an expired listing? Make that relationship with your realtor, your broker, and say, hey, in this market, in this neighborhood, can you start sending me expired listings? You'll be my broker on the deal if it goes through. So they can just divert a feed that goes into your mailbox. You're getting the leads without having the backdoor access that you have. You're working with
Hmm.
another team member to do that because you don't do it
Yeah.
all alone. And then you can start, having those conversations. I think what
Hmm.
really worked well for yours is that it had been an expired listing for so long. Because, like you said, after the first couple months, the blood's in the water. All the other
Yeah.
realtors are trying to relist it, thinking they might be able to do something or know something or have a buyer's list, whatever they might say
Hmm.
on that phone call. But you were
Sure.
unique. Not only did you wait long enough and it was still under the same owner, but you
Hmm.
wanted to buy it.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So, anybody who heard that last 30 seconds, you're not doing this to pick up the listing. You're doing this to pick up the property.
Exactly.
And to Dhaval's point, listen to the seller. If you listen long enough, they'll tell you how to fix the problem. And then you move forward and do the deal.
Hmm.
And this is a property you still own.
That's correct. Yeah.
All right. So, what are the long term plans for that?
This one we're going to keep. It's a first property, perhaps a little bit of sentimental value, but it's pretty healthy cash flow. Mortgage on that's about 2,800 bucks. Um,
Oh,
it's rocking
wow.
and rolling. Yeah.
So 2,800, and if you said that all of your expenses for a multi was 40 to 45%, everything,
Hmm.
you're probably looking at cash flow around 3 to 35 a month cash flow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
pretty
that
good.
mental math, Brian, right off the top. Don't even need an Excel sheet.
My first day doing this. Yeah, well, I've seen enough multis, I've seen enough spreadsheets, I've seen, 45, 50% is kind of high for a multi. So 45%, yeah, sure. 3,000 all day long. So
Yep.
yeah, that's nice. That's nice. Um,
And think about that really quick, Brian. I mean, that's one property,
yeah,
right? Average income in America is roughly 58,000. You don't need too many of those properties to be financially free, right? It requires some time and effort. You got to go, you got to take some risk. One or two of those, most of your living expenses are covered. Then you have the freedom, like Brian, you can be in Aruba.
well, you mentioned the time, effort, and risk. Don't you have the same thing at a job?
Yes.
Most people who have a job think that that's security, but you have zero control over that job being there for you next week. With
Correct.
real estate, it's a slow moving train. You can see the market fluctuations, you see where it's going, you can put a long term plan into place, you can do value add, you can raise rents over time.
Mhm.
You have control. I truly think investing in multifamily is way less risky than driving 20 hours a week to go to a W 2 job.
Mhm.
You know, that 20 hours you could spend going through deals, doing underwriting and putting in offers. And then you're stuck with 40 hours of twiddling your thumbs saying, which pool am I going to hang out at? Right. Okay. I'm
Yep.
being sarcastic and a little smug there. Pool could be whatever it is in your life that is important and drives you, gives you vitality and inspires you and purpose to wake up and live, whatever that is.
I think you'd hit the nail on the head right there, right? So the fulfillment component, it's very different to the individual. Um, Last year I did a 10-day meditation course. completely unplugged. No phone, no internet. And for me, that's joy. That's bliss. It may be totally different for you, Brian, or to our listeners. And I think it's understanding and discerning what that is for you, right? It might be, uh, the green box, watching the Red Sox or the Patriots, like figuring out what that is. And for me, another thing that's worked is also adding a reward to hitting set goals, right? So buy it, whatever it is, a two family, four family, your first property. When I do that, I'm going to reward myself by taking this mini trip for thousand, like whatever it is. And I
Sure.
think having the reward attached and then perhaps a punishment. That's something
Ooh,
that I've had really good luck with. We
wait a
did that
minute,
at the real
wait a
estate
minute,
brokerage.
wait a minute. You mean there's a stick and a carrot? All right, everybody
There's a
gets the
stick
reward.
and a carrot.
Let's go to the stick. I mean, at what point of discipline would you say, okay, go out and get me a stick to beat myself? I mean, what would trigger punishment? I mean, I know it's a real thing, but for
Yeah,
you, for your
yeah,
situation, what would
yeah.
be something that would say, okay, that didn't work and I need to take my medicine?
Yeah. So human psychology, right? There's pain and pleasure. Pain is more impactful as a driver, even more so than pleasure. Meaning we'll do more to avoid pain than go towards pleasure. So when in the real estate days, especially is on the agent side, we had a 30-day competition with some of the folks. We had certain metrics, dials, whoever sold the most homes. Everyone that didn't won lost. And there's some monetary thing. In addition, the losers, and it was in this cohort, it was all guys. We just happened to be straight. The loser had to wear a dress. And it was the day of the quarterly meeting. So there's 200 people at the office. And you're wearing a dress and you're walking and you're doing that walk of shame around the building. That was a helpful driver. I can't. I knew no matter what, I had to win that.
All right, all right, all right. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I don't think I've ever pushed myself that hard. Wow. I lost
We
the
can
bet.
chat more offline. I did a recent 30-day challenge. This was last year. I woke up at 4:30, or excuse me, before 5 every single morning, and I went to CrossFit. I worked out every single day.
Okay.
And this may not work for you, but it worked for me.
No,
And I
that's
had
my
a total
life.
of
Yeah,
there we
that's my
go.
life, right?
There we go.
Yeah. For me, that's normal, right?
Yeah.
My trainer eats me for breakfast and he smiles at me like a shark. And when he flashes those teeth, I know it's leg day or some other punishment day. But at
Yeah.
the end of it, it's like, no, this is why I'm here. This
Yeah.
this this is important. Wow. So I want to focus on the reward part now.
Mm.
We addressed the other issue. Sorry, dad pun, couldn't help myself. So for me, if I run my game right, I play the game right, the reward for me is time.
Mm.
Time for me, I'm going to hermit to my studio and paint. That's it. I mean, you say meditation, right? For me, meditating with the colors in my head, putting them down onto the canvas, working through that whole thing where I'm not really present in that process.
Mhm.
It's like the vision is here and now it goes there. And I'm a conduit to what's going on. That for me is joy.
Mhm.
And then the reward at the end of it is like, oh, wow, look, I have a painting,
Mm.
which isn't so much the painting, but the record of the process
Right.
and what I had to do to win that time to reward myself. And for me, it's real estate, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Oh, this is so much fun.
I'm enjoying it.
What's the biggest hurdle you've had to overcome as a real estate investor? and how did you solve it?
Hmm. That's a good question. So that same year, 2024, we bought a couple of single family properties, and it was zoned commercial, mixed use CCD2, but they're two single family properties. And there's a garage that back in the day was used as a business, about 1,200 square feet. It's pretty sizable. And off market deal, I knew one of the businesses that we're buying, another Subway franchise, the owners knew each other. We got the deal, everything off market. It was complicated. There was, he probably listed it 5 times. And the deal just couldn't get done. It's in a flood zone, so it's a little complicated. But anyway, we got it done. We had to do some rehab to the property, so we acquired it for 315, put in about 110 into it. It appraised at 7 and change. Now the challenge is on the refi side because the cash flow is pretty tight. Flood insurance is about $4,500 a year for the two single fams, and then almost about 4,000 for traditional insurance. So $8,100 just for insurance and about the same for taxes. That does not help cash flow.
Hmm. Are you, I mean, a rabbit hole here. Are you going with a really super high deductible?
Um, Fairly moderate deductible. Off the top of my head, I want to say it's probably 2,500 or 5,000.
Crank that up as high as the agent will let you do it, and it'll lower your annual premium.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because if you did that across the board on all your properties, you're going to see thousands of dollars of cash flow appear.
Okay. That is good to know.
Yeah, talk to your insurance agent and say, hey, here's my portfolio. What would it look like if I upped all my deductibles? Because unless there's a flood, you're probably never going to do a claim, right? Okay, back to your story. The biggest hurdle and how'd you solve it?
Yeah. So biggest hurdle is on the refi portion. So there's I can't tell you how many lenders I've had to reach out to refi it. It even on the refi, it has to go back through the commercial channel, even though they're single family homes. And it's getting the right partner in place. So we're actually still in the process of doing the refi. We don't wanted a rate for rate to come back down, but we're going to be initiating that fairly soon. We're just waiting for a couple other properties to close out. We're under contract on a few that we'll be polishing up and then refining out of those.
Yeah, for one property, I mean, if your regular insurance for a single family is 4,045, if you could get that down to 2,000 across the two properties, if the whole, I mean, what does that do? 4,000, that would up your cash flow 48,000.
Mm-hmm.
That might help push it over the goal line.
That would help.
I mean, maybe. I
Yeah,
mean, it doesn't cost anything to ask your team questions and get
for sure.
answers. And
For
then
sure.
when you have the information, if you can evaluate and say, this is what would happen if we did this, if we didn't do it and you did that, run out some scenarios. I mean, that's the fun stuff that you can do while you're walking or,
Yeah.
driving. Driving is
Yeah.
always, I used to enjoy driving a lot to
Yeah. Okay.
sort
Good
out the
thing.
gray matter. But here,
Yeah.
everything's 15 minutes away. So you're just starting to get keyed in. It's like, oh, I'm here. I got to go now.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So you're still working on it.
Still working on that one. And there's also a garage that's there that could potentially be converted into whether it's there's gas, there's already a furnace there, there's electric, so it may be possible to convert it into a single family or two family. So we're exploring that option. We're using it as storage for one of the businesses. We just finished that up, so now we're exploring some options.
Hmm. Interesting. There's a lot you could do with that much space. Because it's a garage, if first thing I'm thinking is chop it up into storage bins. No
Interesting.
trash, no tenants, no toilets, couple of
Hmm.
walls. That's one thing you could do with it, right?
Sure.
Rent it out if you can drive cars in there, people who've got expensive cars, especially with 3 feet of snow that just happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't want my Z3 sitting in 3 feet of snow. You wouldn't see the thing, right? It'd be
Yeah.
covered. But I mean, that's a whole conversation you could have over dinner and just throw out so many different ideas, right? That's what's
Sure.
so nice about real estate. What's the water? How expensive is the water in that town, right? Could you fill it with laundry machines?
Hmm.
You know, but if it's a really high water expense, no, that's not the right town to put in a
Sure,
laundromat.
sure, sure.
But if it's, it's relatively, yeah, well, okay. So thinking out of the box, right? You're looking at a
Mhm.
garage and what could you do with it? That's always fun. So I'll let you explore and enjoy that. So right now, there's no solution on it. You're still working on it.
Still working on it. And I did reach out to a mentor who was a senior real estate developer for a casino, and he put me in touch with an engineering firm. So we're going through that process now to see if it's viable to go the residential route or just rent it out as a garage. So that one, it's not fully complete, but as part of real estate, there's going to be these challenges, right? That's not something I would have learned in a book. I mean, you have to kind of go through the process, and there's not always a checklist or a specific answer. There's usually multiple different options, and it's figuring out what's going to be the best from a cash flow, from a refinance perspective, and it's figuring out what's best for that stage. Does it make sense to sell it, refi it? There's so many different options with real estate.
Right, right. And having a blank canvas, a space like
Yeah.
that, you know, the safe, I mean, see, safe doesn't always work. Sometimes getting uncomfortable is the best answer.
Yeah.
But whatever that space is, like what's the lowest hanging fruit, the least amount you have to spend to get some cash out of it. And while that's happening, then it buys you some time to run some different models. And,
Sure.
if I invest this much and get that return, you know, then you can look at least it's paying for itself while you're figuring
That's
out.
fair.
But I hate doing the easy answer, I drive people crazy sometimes, but it's
Yeah.
all right. So that's fun. You mentioned a few books. I love
Hmm.
books.
Hmm.
A month ago, we got down here just before Christmas, and we
Hmm.
had to move out of this condo. So this
Yeah.
is my last day here.
Okay.
After this, we'll do the clean out and the
Yeah.
walkthrough tonight. But I had like scores of books in here, avid
Mm.
devouring of books, love reading books. I always keep a
Hmm.
book around. That's part of
Hmm.
my routine, daily routine.
Yep.
You've mentioned a few. Uh, was there a book in your investing career that had a huge impact on you? And I'm going to ask that
Mm.
a few times. So let's
Sure.
go for one and then I'll dig for two. And if it sounds really good, I'll go for three.
Mm. There's this book called The Dundo Investor. So Dundo means it's by an author named Monish Bobrai, and he's essentially using the Warren Buffett model. Averages, I think, 20+% returns. And one of the key aspects he focuses on is mitigating risk as much as possible. One of the stores, Subways that we bought, it was out of bankruptcy. We paid X for it. We knew worst case, the equipment was worth more than that, so we're going to be fine. And putting yourselves, or at least we put ourselves in scenarios where the return, and if it hits, it's a home run. So finding more of those sorts of opportunities. The second book is The Go Giver. Have you heard of that one? Yeah.
Yeah. Nice little red small book.
Yeah.
Get through it in a day or so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell a little about that one.
Go Giver is essentially focusing on generosity and just giving for giving's sake and not keeping track of, hey, I gave, that means it's your turn now, but just giving for giving's sake, and getting pleasure in just giving. And in my experience, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, Brian, like it comes back, right? It's not the intention. I'm not expecting anything, but just give, give, give. Eventually it comes back.
And that, it stems back to our previous conversation about the mindset. You have to feel it and then your life changes. You
Yeah.
don't wait for it's like, give me heat and then I'll put some wood on the fire. No, it doesn't work that way, right?
Yeah.
So if you have, this outgoing of joy and giving, it's not like because I do this, I expect the universe to reciprocate. It's just
Mm,
you're going to attract that because that's where you are.
sure.
It's who you are. It's what you are, right?
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
fun. I hope that's one of the books that I confiscated and brought back to the US. Because that was hard. I had to go through all my books. It's like, okay, I can't bring all of these back. Since I've been down here, I've made 2 trips back and forth to the US to bring books and other essential stuff. The rest is in
Sure.
storage until, whenever. Is there a third book that you would recommend that would or had a big impact on you as an investor?
I'm gonna give you two actually.
Good.
These are books that I read early on in my journey, probably between the ages of 16 and 18. First one is How to Win Friends and Influence People. Solid book. The second one is Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah. Yeah. Both of those, Dale Carnegie, and the whole thing about win and influence people. This isn't to influence or manipulate or cohort people. It's like remembering somebody's name,
Yeah.
building a relationship, building rapport, knowing who they are, and then when you get your expired listing, it gives you a baseline, some ground level where you can just have a conversation with another human being and show
Mm,
some interest in them.
yeah.
And then think and grow rich. I love that there are 2 action verbs in there. You have to think and you have
Hmm.
to grow, which both say take action. This
Yep.
is not, well, I'll sit down and maybe someday it'll fall on my lap.
Hmm.
No, that doesn't happen. What will fall on your lap is dust mites. Just brush those off, get over yourself, get up. Really, really good books, really, really good recommendations. Haven't listened to those in a while on the audio, but what do they call those things? The iPod. Remember those? The little things? Yeah, I've got like hundreds of books on my iPod because I was pre-Audible days.
Mm,
Here you are, you're turning a page, opening a chapter. Well, you've already been here, but at the beginning, while we were talking in the green room, you said, this is exclusively where I'm going to go now.
mm,
So here you are, master of multifamily. What's next for you, and why not get started today?
mm. Acquire 24 additional rental units. So the goal is to be at 36 by the end of the year. Specialize again in multifamily sales in Massachusetts and Connecticut, predominantly Western Mass, Northern Connecticut, and I divest of the subway franchises. So really laser focusing on one thing. For me, that core right now is real estate investing, specifically multifamilies, 2 to 20 units.
So you mentioned 2 out of 3, which resonate right with me. Divesting the subways. What's what's going on
No
there?
longer in alignment. I'm vegan. I eat organic foods primarily. It's no longer a business that resonates. I don't have the same passionate for it as I once did, and I think having alignment is really important.
Excellent answer. I mean, as soon as you said vegan and you eat naturally, it's like I avoid processed food like the plague.
Yeah.
And not to slam any franchises out there. I mean, guilty as charged. When I was working on my properties all day long, I would hit a drive-through, grab some food, and go back to work. Right. It's sustainable. It'll get you through the
Hmm.
day. Great. But if it's not in alignment with your core, it doesn't belong in your life. Okay.
Agreed.
I didn't know if there were a financial aspect for that, but this is all alignment. This That was a really good answer.
I mean, there is a financial component too, right? Like we've been with the brand, 15 plus years, and we actually ended up shutting down a location last year. It was one of the original two when I was a senior, or that I purchased when I dropped out. And here we are, fast forward, headquarters has made probably over $200,000 in royalties off of us. The landlord is definitely made more than that, 225 probably. And the person that's losing in that scenario is us as the franchisees. We made some money while operating it, but this isn't just us. Subway's closed 8,000 locations over the past decade.
Oh, wow.
So there's a couple of things behind the scenes, and
Okay.
I'm grateful for that experience. What I know with 100% level certainty, integrity is very, very important to me.
Wow, that was super, super, super enlightening. Now I'm looking at my life and saying, okay, what's not in alignment, and take those things off the plate, right? I'll save that for myself. Walk down the basement. But, that was really great. I've got one more curveball question that was not on your
Sure,
script.
let's do it.
What's the question I didn't ask you today that I should have?
Mm, that's a really good question. Um, what's had the biggest impact on your life as far as experience and people that you've met? Um, and the answer is I've had the the opportunity to meet several billionaires, Fortune 500 CEOs, monks, and people from all walks of life. And I think at the core of it, something that's really resonating at this stage of life is being fulfilled, right? Like being an entrepreneur, being an investor, there's a certain element of dedication and work ethic that's required. That's to succeed in any profession. But and how do we enjoy the process? So that way it's not just work. And for the longest time, like 2024, like I hit a financial goal that I've had since I was a kid. And I thought, I was going to be euphoric, and I was for 15 seconds. And I'm like, okay, now what? And I've had that happen multiple times. Same thing happened with the 30 under 30 thing with the achievement. Cool, now what? And now it's recognizing, and I had a similar thing with travel last year. And I spent a month traveling, really enjoyed it. But coming back to the core, it's like quality, creating time for quality things that matter to me. So whether it's meditation, so I meditate 45 minutes a day, every single day, no matter what. And going to the gym at least 4 times a week, quality time with friends, and figuring out that's what works for me. And I think for the audience, it's figuring out what is your bliss, what brings you the most joy. Is it spending an extra couple of bucks on that fancy coffee? Is it, going on that hike every weekend? Like figuring out that and enjoying it. I think that's one thing that's top of mind for me right now.
I'm so glad I asked that question. Yeah. And that resonates because, there's even, oh, I can't think of it. He was like one of the first guys. Like I remember seeing some black and white clips, and he is a radio guy, and he's smoking a cigarette while he's doing all these interviews and inspiration stuff.
Yeah.
I can't think of it. It's on the tip of my tongue. But anyways, he was one of those first gurus way back, black and white film. And he would say it,
Mhm.
right? Like you move to that island, and then it's like, well, what's next? I've done it.
Mm.
I've done it. You said like 15 seconds after, and it didn't, it's like, okay, it happened. It's done, right? We're on the way home now. Back to
Yeah.
what's next. For me, the next painting
Mm.
isn't going to be the same.
Mm.
I get to enjoy the process. I get to enjoy the procedure, the whole setup, the everything that has to happen. And then every single brushstroke is different.
Mm.
So I don't see myself getting bored with that. I mean, I could paint 1,000 pelicans and they'll all be different.
Yeah.
600.
I love that.
I keep painting starfish, right? And they're always different.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm happy with that. That's, you said, what gives you
Sure.
joy? Having, it's, yeah. I've got all these tropical colors going on and this French Impressionist art style that I love. And it's like Tropic meets French Impressionism, and I'm in.
Yeah.
I'll keep doing this. And that goes even further. And I know it's your show, but I'll put this out there. There's 3 orphanages here on the island, and I'm now part of the art community here. And every year in September is Art Week. I've been blessed enough the last 2 years to be able to go in there and have my work there. Great. One of the fundraisers is Art Table, where they set up this super long table, 25 people that way, 25 people that way, canvases end to end, and you paint on each other's canvas. And it's one
Mm.
long, continuous painting. And there's cheese and wine and hors d'oeuvres and all this stuff. It's a fundraiser to help provide the event. Wouldn't it be great if I could get enough artists and sponsors and people together to do Art Table at the orphanage?
Mm.
Just let kids be kids for a day. You want to get paint
Yeah.
on your clothes? Go ahead, right? Have fun.
Yeah.
Be a
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah.
Enjoy what it's like to, I remember when I was a kid, my mom wouldn't say, well, why don't you paint something? She'd say, oh, look at these new paints I bought, right? And that was it. She'd
Yeah.
walk away and I'd be like, oh, those are interesting, right? And then, those things that kids do normally before their
Mm.
brain grows up,
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't it be wonderful? And if we could do this, that's something that's, I'll give you an update on that when it happens.
Yeah.
This has been fun. I really enjoyed going deep with you, the meditation and the gym and all that. I didn't expect that would happen on a show, but I'm happy that it did because,
Mm.
It's more of the purpose of why do you want to do this, right? Why is this important? Because it allows the financial freedom that I can do the things that add value to my life.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we do real estate. Why not?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Mr. Patel, this has been so much fun. You're closing a chapter here in Aruba. I don't know the next podcast I'll do from here. So right now you're holding the record and you get that one. You get to hold that badge. Um, Anyone who's watching this show, someone who resonates with your energy or what you're doing, or maybe has that 24th unit that you're looking for. If any of our viewers on the show today wanted to reach out to you and find you, how should they reach out and get to you?
Shoot me an email. Better yet, I'll give you my cell. 774-232-6402. Again, that's 774-232-6402.
Most excellent and most generous. Put out the email as well for those people who may be afraid to actually speak.
Sounds fair. So I'll give you the following. It's going to be my first name, Dhaval, Dhaval, sold, SOLD, my house, HOUSE, at gmail.com. Again, Dhaval, sold my house at Gmail.
Perfect. Beautiful. Any last words for our listeners on the show today, Dhaval?
It's been a pleasure. I've learned many things from you, Brian. And to everyone that's listening, go out there, take action. You will be so happy you did 10, 20 years from now. Let's get after it.
Beautiful advice. I think this is not my first recording for 2026, but you do hold a record last recording in Aruba. So here we are. Ladies and gentlemen, all of my real estate peeps, rock stars, entrepreneurs, investors, what a show. This is Brian Lucier from the Why Not Real Estate Podcast signing off, and we'll see you on the next one.